obviously I will turn towards you. I don't need to see the computer.
Right.
I just need to, because I'll put you on the like banner and I'll crop it.
Okay.
Too, but I'm gonna do from back here too, so we can get like a cute. All right, go ahead and put your headphones on, and I'll just take like a quick.
So exciting. Yay.
This way we'll have some like B-roll.
Love that.
Last time I did not do enough B-roll when I was
You just learn every time.
Yeah.
It's still with YouTube a year and a half later, it's the same.
Yeah.
And my people love not editing. Like, I will probably post this whole video because they don't want edits. They just want to see.
I like to not edit too, and I also, like when I do the sound for this,
Yeah.
I'll edit it so that there's nothing too crazy, but I like that it's a little bit raw and it's a city. Like the last
Right.
one had like sirens and like.
Exactly.
Okay, so is there anything that you want to make sure we talk about?
No,
No, so you don't have anything to promote,
No.
like what's coming up. Okay, but at the end I will ask you like how can we find you and
Awesome.
all of that stuff. So what I thought I would do is just ask you a little bit about yourself, your journey, how we came together, and then we'll just let it unfold.
I love it.
See
Cool.
what happens. Okay, are you cool with your camera angle and all of that?
Yeah, it's a little crooked, but it's all right.
Are you sure we can like?
I can correct it.
Okay,
and
perfect.
Final
Okay,
cut.
and does it have sound as well?
The boom, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
I mean, it may not be perfect, but you are recording this.
Yes.
So I can overlay this audio.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to, I would raise your mic up a little bit so that we're getting a little bit more Lisa. Since we're kind of far away. And then that way.
I don't know how to do it though. You show
Here,
me.
let me help you. Let's do this.
Okay, cool.
How high do you want it?
I can get intimate.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah. Hi, Lisa. Okay,
Hi,
cool.
you sound great.
Okay, good. Okay, so let's turn you up a little bit then. All right, we should be good to go. All we have to do is hit record, hopefully. I'm always like, is it gonna work? Okay. And then post-production, I'll do the intro, like I'll do a little clip of you, and then I'll say my guest, and I'll talk about your bio, and then the episode starts. There's a little break where I do a commercial, and then there's like an ending where it talks like how to find us or whatever.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was born ready.
I know. Good morning, Lisa. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Christine. Excited to be here.
I know. Welcome to Living Well in Chicago. I am so happy that you were able to be here with me in person. That's a new thing for me rather than doing it on Zoom like we did during the pandemic.
Right.
It was much easier, but this is, I think, better. Just better for community and for fun.
I agree. This is kismet. This was meant to happen.
I know, and I'll just tell our audience a little bit about how we know each other. So both in the real estate industry here in Chicago for many, many years.
Many, yes.
We have crossed paths many, many times.
Yeah.
And then just recently we were both at the same sound bath at the Harold Washington Museum, Art Museum, at the Harold Washington Library in their beautiful rooftop atrium. And so yes, listeners, if you ever get a chance to go there and do a sound bath with Jay Taylor, Jay
Taylor is the most beautiful hearted human. He's amazing.
I know, let's say that twice because I would really love to have him on as a guest.
You should just ask him. He's great.
I know.
Yes?
I love him so much. Yeah, he's so talented. He does sound baths at the zoo and the Lion House in the summer too, which is also really cool. Yeah. So I wanted to share with our audience a little bit about you. Typically when I meet someone who has kind of leaned into the wellness journey, there's some history there and some motivation to want to share with others to hopefully connect with others, but also to maybe condense time for people who are going through a tough time or a challenging time or just want to change into a different version of themselves. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how we ended up here at the beautiful Colvin House in Edgewater?
Yeah, so I'll take it all the way back. When I was conceived, it was a problem between my parents and it caused them to divorce.
Oh, okay.
And they both remarried people that had addiction issues and were abusive to me. Oh. And so 14, I ran away and I just never really had a family support system. I really never felt grounded in myself. I really never knew who I was. I had a narcissistic father and mother, so never really knew me, never knew myself. And then fast forward to 2020, my mom and I healed our relationship and she died suddenly at 67. And it was my first experience with channeling. When she went into hospice, she came home with me energetically.
And so what does that mean to people who don't know what channeling is?
It's so interesting because if you were to say it to me, I'd be like, I don't really understand it. And still to myself, I don't fully grasp what's happening, but it's like you're feeling, to me, my experience is I'm feeling the person's presence. I'm hearing their tone and like they're speaking, but they're not present. So it's kind of like you hear thoughts of yourself in your own head, but I know that it's not me, it's them. And they're communicating in a way that they used to speak to me and like making jokes how they used to be. So Fast forward 2 more years, my brother Eric and I were memorializing my mother on Chicago Lake in the playpen, and he drowned on the same day that my mother had died, 2 years to the day.
Oh, wow.
And I got to call his father and say, your son passed on the day of your wife, and he started channeling and communicating with me. And,
your brother?
Yes. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I can't ignore that, like, both of them are communicating, and my brother was only 35, and he had been emotionally struggling with depression, alcoholism, and processing losing his mother. But as a 35-year-old macho man, didn't feel vulnerable enough to ever share that he was struggling and suffering with depression. And none of his friends knew his mom had died. Because in the ICU, on his deathbed, we had his friends come say goodbye. And they all asked me, where's Eric's mom? And I'm like, his mom passed 2 years ago, and they didn't know.
And that's so powerful. Thank you for sharing that one piece, because I think in the wellness community, it does sort of lean towards that female energy.
Yes.
And I think it's really important as the mother of 2 young men to recognize how unsupported men are in our culture in an emotional way. And, you know, we don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but I think it is something that it needs to be talked about more, and recognize that young men struggle as much as young women. It's just different. Their cultural responses to their upbringing and the environment are just different.
Even genetics, the way they process situations. Like when you tell a man a problem, he wants to fix it. When you tell a woman, you know, you can commiserate and share and be emotional, but they physically are different.
Right.
So when he passed in 2022, it was explained to me that he wanted me to speak about this on YouTube, to be an advocate for it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to say, hey, I'm struggling today. I don't think I can meet you. You know, I'm really feeling sad, or I'm having imposter syndrome. I did a photo shoot with Anna. I don't know if you know. She does a lot of real estate agents photography around Chicago. And I was like, Anna, I'm having imposter syndrome today. Like, I feel really uncomfortable. Even though I'm modeling now for over 20 years, I felt uncomfortable modeling with her.
Right.
It was like this anxious energy in my mind, which is newer. I'm dealing with some thyroid things, which is hormonally kind of have me off balance. But I was vulnerable enough to share it instead of trying to pretend and like act like I had it. And she was like, I'm kind of feeling sad today myself. So we actually connected about it, and then it turned both of our moods around, and we had a great photo shoot. So just, I think that's a change in 2025 that a lot of people are opening up to.
I think you're allowed to be a little bit more of an authentic version of yourself. I think it's a muddy boundary, right? Especially in the workplace, where, you know, you can't necessarily just be authentic all day and all night every day with every single emotion and everything that you're processing. But I agree with you that our culture is shifting towards not just holding it all together for the facade of
the Instagram
perfection.
life.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, and it's so ironic, right? Because you and I are like, we're going to take a bunch of pictures and we're going to video this and we're going to put it out there. And you have to keep that line in your mind of like, okay, where's the tipping point between really wanting to share and put your art out there? Because I feel the same. If I don't put art out there, I get depressed because it's part of who I am.
Right.
But then at the same time, not falling into the trap of comparison and imposter syndrome and all of the perfectionism and things like that. So
Yeah, I think about it. Imposter syndrome wasn't even a thing that we used to say.
I don't even think, we could have a whole episode about this, but I don't think imposter syndrome is really a thing.
I think it started with Instagram because we're all trying to pretend that we're all like that. It's like the highlights reel.
Right.
And in my opinion, podcasts and YouTube are like the behind the scenes.
Right.
It's where people are getting like deep with their stuff, because with podcasts, there's not always video.
Right.
So people feel a little more vulnerable to listen and like sit at home and cook and eavesdrop in on the conversation and be
exactly.
like, oh, I kind of
love
feel
that
like that
about
too.
it.
Same.
Because, you know, I feel like some of the podcasts, especially given, you know, through the pandemic and then being, you know, an empty nester, and, you know, I can turn on a podcast and feel like I'm at a kitchen table with the people who are having the conversation, whether it's lighthearted fun, like something like Smartless or whatever, or it's We Can Do Hard Things and they're going through, you know, hard things. So yeah, and that's what makes me want to do it, is just sharing the voices of people and what they've gone through. And so when you started to recognize that you had this channeling thing happening, then what happened? Like, what were the next steps for you?
You know, there's not really a rhythm to it, because sometimes I'll meet people and I'll just catch feels and vibes, and I'll be like, oh, was that necklace your grandmother's? And they'll be like, well, actually it is. I'm like, oh, she likes that you wear it. And then I'm like, why did I say that?
She likes that you wear it.
I'm like so confused where it comes from. So with some of my clients now, I call them downloads or messages. I don't know who or where in this ancestral lineage or spirit guide is saying something, but a lot of times when I'm communicating with my coaching clients, I'll just know kind of what to say, and they'll be like, wow, how did you know that about me? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm here to share the message.
Right.
Are you familiar with human design?
Yes.
So my chakra is completely open, and so is my, what is this called? Like the crown?
Crown.
They're both open. So I'm allegedly a portal for the other side to communicate. So that's also
And
why.
that makes so much sense. And so can we go on a little bit of a tangent with that?
Please.
So when you talk, this is really weird, and I haven't shared this with anyone except my son, but so when I started doing the podcast, I was doing a little bit of practicing.
Okay.
And I had this pain in my mouth.
Oh.
And I was literally going down to the lake and like yelling out at the water because I was trying to reconnect with my voice. Yes. And I wanted to like, open up my chakra, my throat. And because I know that a big piece of my upbringing and my, journey has been to reconnect to my voice because of my, my situation. And so, and having dimmed myself and quieted myself. And
people pleasing.
And also having a music teacher that told my mom that my voice was too loud. Like, what music teacher says that? Like, stupid stuff like that. But anyway, so I was doing all of this stuff to like open up my, throat chakra and really reconnect with my voice. And I had started having this pain in my mouth, and I went to the dentist, and there was actually like a bone that was pushing its way out through the underside of my gums, which I didn't even know was a
possible
thing.
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh yeah, it's a bone spur. It's probably been there since you got your wisdom teeth out. Because sometimes when they like go in there and they take your wisdom teeth out, there's like, I can't believe I may have to edit this. Yeah. I might have to edit this out because it's really gross. But I think it's really interesting how your body, like that could have been something that was like blocking me or symbolically blocking me. And so when those two things happened at the same time, I was like, okay,
shift.
Yeah, my body is like expelling something. Yeah. And I'm expelling like an old belief or value or, capability. Yeah. Right. And so then I was like, okay, we're on the right path. And so in terms of the tangent for what I wanted to talk about for you in terms of like having that open chakra and being a channel, do you feel like that was something that was always true?
Yes, and I was so uncomfortable with it and didn't understand. I used to go to real estate events, and I could feel energies on people and hear what they were thinking and understand that they were having affairs and that they were desiring to sleep with people that were married, and it was so overwhelming that I was like, how do people go to these social events? Because realtors, we party, okay? Like it's part of the job description to like get wasted and like blast through a bunch of money. Yeah. And so it was starting to make me really uncomfortable and feel social anxiety. And I thought something was wrong with me in that I just was becoming not comfortable hanging out with these people because they were malicious and evil and like dark people. But it was just that I was really open to what they were thinking and desiring and craving. And it wasn't a mental thing. It was like a spiritual connection to their energy.
Yeah, that makes sense because we all have dark thoughts that we wouldn't want other people to hear, and good thoughts and kind thoughts and all those things. But if you all of a sudden can pick up on all of it, I can imagine it would be really overwhelming.
Very overwhelming. And people, how do I explain to someone, like, I can hear your dark thoughts that you're trying to sleep with this person who's 18 years old, like, who's the receptionist,
Which
so,
is not an uncommon situation.
It really isn't.
Unfortunately still, yeah.
So, yeah, I don't remember your question, but
what I was curious about is that if it was something that was always there, even probably when you were much younger, but that it just wasn't nurtured or allowed, and so it took time for you to like let it back open, I guess.
One of the healers that I work with, that's a breathwork facilitator here, told me that there was a time in my life where me and my younger brother who passed used to hide in the closet because he was very sensitive and intuitive as well. We were born 4 years apart, but 1 day apart. We're both Pisces. Okay. He was the 16th, I'm the 17th. Very watery, energetically connected people. And she explained that me and him used to hide in the closet when our mom was having like postpartum and like manic outbursts, and that our little brother, who's not diagnosed but sociopathic tendencies, would come in and like terrorize us and like mess with us, and like we would try to be hiding and like recovering and healing from the overwhelm of the energy. Right. And this other brother was complete opposite, and so we grew up in that household of like terrorized community energy. Yeah. And I think that he never really learned again as a man how to balance that, how to talk through that. He was very close to my mother. We both would text her daily. We were like best friends with her when she was diagnosed with her cancer diagnosis. And I think he just didn't have the outlet to emotionally share. And right before my mom passed, his fiance, the girl he had been dating for I think like 8-9 years, had an affair and wanted to marry this guy and leave my brother. And his world was falling apart. Right. And he just started drinking. And his father and I used to say, like my stepfather, his father, we're afraid he's going to kill someone, drunk driving. Mm-hmm. We literally 2-3 weeks before he passed away were having that conversation that we were nervous. Yeah. And then we both feel that he wanted to pass on. We both feel that life was too hard for him. He was too sensitive. He just didn't have the footing to figure out how to exist. And that sounds terrible to say, but energetically, I think he's happier on the other side.
Yeah, I had someone say that to me about someone from my life who passed away, and she said he just couldn't live in that body anymore. He needed to relinquish it and find another way, because And you're right, especially with men, I think, to try to build that foundation and connection
at
when you're
35.
already, right, in our culture could be real challenging.
And he was typecasting as like the super macho buff guy who would like work out for 2-3 hours, and like he was giving himself the muscles were his meaning, versus like this beautiful heart that I had known when we were young kids, like one of the sweetest kids, like, you know, would like pet a broken butterfly,
right.
You know, like he just was so soft. Yeah. And that's just not.
And that's such a cool phrase that you just said, like muscles over meaning. And I think that's a very apropos way of saying like what young men are kind of taught is the way to be a man, right? And I was just listening to something the other day about someone who was like the definition of man. What does the male energy bring, and what is it actually, and who is it for you as a man, and how do you connect to that,
right?
And
because there's a flip. A lot of women now are in the alpha energy, and men are starting to become more of that feminine energy, which is so uncomfortable for both of us. Like, we as women don't want to be masculine, and them as men, they shouldn't want to be feminine, and it's this uncomfortable dance that we're in right now. And I don't know how we got there, but who gets us out of here?
Yeah, I think what gets us out of there is conversations like these that aren't in a silo.
Yes.
Because if it's just let's support women, you know, pussy hats and all the things, and the Me Too movement all had to happen, and it's super powerful, and I'm so glad that it's happening or has happened.
Yes.
But there's not that same movement for men of like, okay, so where do I go with this now that I don't get to just come home from work and be the provider and the, you know, the boss of everything, you know, and so the pendulum swings one way and the other way. But I think, you know, having conversations where everyone's energy and everyone's path is seen and heard and talked about, I think that's how we get there.
Because I also know from dating that a lot of men are SA'd. A lot of men go on a date and women are very aggressive and touch them and are just doing inappropriate things to men as well. But like, what's a guy gonna say? Oh, I went on a date, this girl grabbed me, pour me. Like, so they're like having these terrible moments of trauma and no space to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't know what's going on, but we gotta
the dating thing we could do 17 episodes about.
That's my favorite number.
Maybe is it? Oh, so maybe that's what we'll do.
Let's do that.
So let's circle back to the channeling and where you are now in your coaching and what you feel like you've been able to bring to the world because of your experience.
Yeah. So do you have a specific ask about my coaching? Okay. Well, I'm starting to work with men more.
Interesting.
Which initially I hired a business coach last year, and they were like, oh, you know, I see you as it's female, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah. And then I've been advertising on social media, and the last 3 months it's been men, only men. And I'm like, okay, all right, well, and then I actually had a gay friend of mine mention, he's like, I kind of have like daddy issues. I would rather have a woman talk to me and console than have a man. I don't want a man.
That's so fascinating, and maybe you're right. Like it's to be able to lean into being mothered.
The softness, yeah. And I was like, okay, maybe this is a thing, because I love the idea of helping. For me, when I wanted to start YouTube in 2018, it was to help my younger self. When I was 28, lost, living in my car, neither parent speaking to me, didn't know who I was because my father just fired me. I was like so lost. I use YouTube to help me. And so I wanted to create a YouTube to find other 28-year-old, 30-year-old women who were going through that. I mean, I'm sure you've lived through that too, where we all kind of transition from 20s to 30s, and then again 30s to 40s it happens, where you like rediscover self and shift into this different era of your life. And nobody warns you. Also, no one warns you that losing a parent, especially the mother, is a very traumatic experience because you feel like an orphan.
Yeah.
But I initially wanted to find my besties, my girlies, my younger sisters, because I never had a sister, who I could help transition them through that late 20s to who am I, to who I actually want to be. So to have men reaching out, it was like, okay, all right. But I just had a connection call with the first 2-hour intro call with a guy last week, and he was sobbing the whole call. And he said, Lisa, I've never felt like someone has understood me more ever in my entire life. Like what you're saying is like so deeply into, like we're sharing conversations that I've never told anybody. And I don't know how you're just pulling these things out of me, but it's just the downloads that I get through the channeling of some sort of spirit guide or part of their energy that I'm reading that is telling me what they know that they're just not believing is real. And they need someone to coach them into it.
Right, and all good coaching is really just a mirror. Right. So for you to be the vehicle for them to feel safe in those feelings, and then to mirror it back to them that you're hearing that.
Yes.
That may be the first time that anyone has ever heard it.
Yes.
And that's what's so interesting too, from that perspective from the male perspective of, you know, did it hurt? No. Did you cry? Or wait, did it hurt? Yes. Did you cry? No, because I'm a man.
Right.
You know, it's like they don't get a chance to decide how they felt about it.
Right.
Everybody just says, boys don't cry. Right.
And this poor genital, he's being abused by his mother still to this day.
Oh,
verbally,
wow.
physically, There is some SA in his lineage, not, so it's just, he's going through so much and he's never really had any support.
Right.
And I don't know about you, but I tend to attract clients that have very similar past things to me because energetically we're a match for each other and we can understand one another, which is also why I tease that the universe has given me so much chaos and trauma so that I can help a wide range of people through their ish.
Right.
Right. Because there's just so many layers of what I've lived through that people are like, and that too? I'm like, yeah, and then that too,
Yeah. And if you had to say like your ish, like I've heard that put, your mess is your message. What is your message?
Oh boy. What is my message? Currently it's vulnerability and authenticity are the most sexiest thing you can wear, and showing up as your soul's purpose and living in alignment is the best life you can live, and let's get you there, Yeah. A lot of times we're forced by parents to do a career or profession based on what they think is going to cause success and make us stable and safe, and it's not what we came here energetically to do. And I think that people get really disconnected from self when they're performing, especially, at college. To pick your career at 17 years old.
Right.
Did you know who you were at 17 years old?
I don't know who I am now.
Oh, I do now. At 27, I didn't know.
I know, but
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
I allow myself to have an evolution. So I think at that age, you do feel like you have to, be decisive about something that you can't.
So overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I would say that's my message.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how do you feel like our world reflects that for you right now? Do you our world, is it obviously we can all feel the shift that's happening in a more global sense?
Most, not all, but many. Yes. Yeah. So can you rephrase the question a little bit?
I guess what I was trying to get at is, as you bring your message out into the world,
yes,
what are you finding is the connectors that you're making in the larger culture?
I will say the last 6 months, I definitely feel less embarrassment to be really raw about stuff. I was recently in Singapore, and in that culture, you don't really share your intimate details. You don't talk about your embarrassing things or whatever. And I remember the woman I was staying with was driving the car, and I was like, well, yeah, my dad did this and my mom did that. And she almost crashed the car into the median because she was like, she was in shock that I was sharing such deep, authentic, vulnerable aspects of who I am, just out in the open and showing my dirty laundry,
right.
That I feel like that's more, people are cheering for that more. They're like asking for it more. They're like, please tell me more, please. Yeah. I can connect with that little piece of that. Help me get through it by telling me how you went through it. If that answers the question.
I think that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on a second.
So definitely, I'm gonna pause and restart it.
Stop recording. Not sure what happened. Did we lose the Wi-Fi? Where? Let's just check this too. No?
No.
Can you still hear yourself?
Yeah, I can.
Hello? I can hear you too. Okay, let's just try to turn it back on. Okay, let's see. Okay, we'll get to the questions because we're at like 24 minutes.
Okay.
Is there anything else before we do that though that you want to touch on
No.
while we have this little break? Okay.
I'm in flow. So.
Okay, I know, me too. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure I'm not. Hello? It's not recording.
Hello?
Blah, blah.
Should I also talk?
No, there's no sound getting to the computer. Think when you're 56 to become an expert at Rock Band. You got to do what you got to do out there in the world.
Yes.
Okay. So we were talking about like the bigger culture and you sharing and feeling more comfortable and sharing those kinds of things. Okay, so I'm going to jump in. I'm just going to say like, thank you for bringing like your experience as a light to the world and that type of thing. And that I ask, I appreciate you being here and that I ask everybody these questions and we'll do those. And then I'll say, is there anything else you'd like people to know or how can they find you?
Cool.
And then you can talk about that and that'll be a good 10 more minutes and then we should be good. Okay. Lisa, thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared so far today. I really, I didn't know all of those things about you.
Surprise.
Yeah, and it's so, everyone has their, crosses to bear, as they say.
Yes.
But I think, to your point, being able to share that with other people doesn't make you farther away from people. It makes you closer to people, because everyone has things that they carry. Yeah. Correct? And I think we do tend to look at Instagram and we look at Facebook and we see the best of everyone. Yes. And we forget that, you don't see the 17 times they failed, or, right. When their mom and they had an issue, or whatever it is. Everyone, every human has a family. Right. What does the little girl in Elf say? She says, I'm a human raised by humans. Yeah. So I'm a human raised by humans. Same. So are you. Yes. It's something that, makes us connect or close down. And I appreciate that you're someone who wants to help people allow what it truly means to be a human being in the world.
Thank you.
To bring you out of yourself and not shut you down.
Well, and I feel that you're one and the same, is that we're a beacon of light to help people see through their darkness, because we are showing up with the vulnerability and authenticity about our struggles and bringing on people to talk about it and give more evidence that we're all in this together as humans and we're all doing the best that we can.
Yeah, and that's why I'm doing it. I want to give voice to people who are healing, and I think it's interesting because everybody who I meet, like I started out saying, has some sort of journey that they went through, and the message for them ends up being, okay, share it. Right. Tell people, do what you can to put your gifts out there in the world, and the more authentic people there are, the more safety we create for other people. So I ask everybody at the end of the podcast a couple of questions.
Okay, I'm ready.
So I will ask you, what are you doing today that your future self will thank you for?
I am showing up in the way that I think my soul wanted me to all this time. I, am living in confidence with my choices, setting boundaries and recovering from the people pleasing, and making myself a priority. As the last 2 years since losing my brother, I've really strengthened the relationship with myself and understand that my number one relationship in life is to myself, because I was always taught to give it to everybody else. And reflecting and giving it back to myself has just completely changed my life in all of the best ways. And I meet people like I met a few years ago to 10 years ago, and they're all like, you are different. Like, you show up different. I don't know what it is, what's going on. Even from 6 months ago, people are like, I see that you're different. I'm like, I am. Yeah. I'm alchemizing. I'm healing. I'm recovering. I'm learning. I'm, what's the word? Excavating?
Right. That's a great word.
All of this ish. And it just is so liberating and like euphoric. Yes. You can't buy this ish at the grocery store, people. Right. Healing is the best high you can ever get.
And the best thing you can do for your health.
Right. For the planet. Mm-hmm. Because if all of us are alchemizing and moving through our stuff, we as a community show up differently.
Agreed. I totally agree. And that brings me to our next question, the perfect segue. How do you come back to yourself when you feel yourself getting, pulled back out of balance?
So it's something a lot of my clients talk about with me, is that when you're in the best space, meditation is so easy. And when you're in it, meditation is like, I don't have time for that, or, you just forget about it existing. And I really think calming the mind, I have a playlist on my Spotify where it's spiritual jams. And it's very deep, and the language is very therapeutic and intentional in that, like, you are enough for yourself. You have purpose. Like, it's just to listen to it even when I'm driving, when I'm late to a meeting, mm-hmm. to put on that song and just kind of ground myself back into, none of it really matters, but me healing is what matters. Right. Me taking space and time for myself, even if that means sitting in the bathroom for 5 extra minutes to do a quick little close my eyes and focus on my breath. Feel my feet touching the floor. To feel the lungs breathing in and out. Those little simple things of existence, and just reconnecting to that.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you said that. That's a powerful one for me as well. It's just reconnecting to your body. Yeah. And recognizing that the moments when you don't want to lean into your meditation practice is the times when you should be doing it twice a day.
Correct. Yes.
And then lastly, what's something that you've learned on your journey that you wish that you know is true, and you wish everybody else knew it too?
that if you feel a calling within yourself, a voice, a sensation, a tingle, that is your purpose. And to go after that, because for the longest time I wanted certain aspects and I was like, oh, I can't shine so bright. My mom won't like that. Or, oh, I have to do what my dad says because, you know, he's my dad. And I lived into my 30s believing that I had to serve others instead of serving myself. So if you're feeling the call to change your career, you know, maybe end a relationship that's, yes, it's from your high school friend, but you're not the same you were in high school, and it's okay to take space and to focus on a relationship with yourself. Disappear for 6 months. There was an Instagram thing going around, TikTok thing going on. It's a real thing.
It is a real thing.
I mean, if you focus all the energy on yourself for 6 months that you were giving to other people, you will be such a different human. And then it's like addicting. Then you're like, I need to keep going. This is so great. And then you just get more and more gifts.
And how did you feel? Okay, so this is not something that I predicted asking, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Okay.
How do you feel in that messy space of becoming a different version of yourself,
Yeah.
a more grounded, authentic version, and the other people in your life not necessarily being on that same journey with
Yes, that is something I had to deal with Instagram, because a lot of my followers were real estate agents, and I could tell that they were like whispering in the shadows, Lisa's lost her mind, because
Right.
that photographer actually told me a lot of them said Lisa lost her mind, because I started talking to my brother that passed away, and that was just too much for them to comprehend and translate that I had that ability. I
Right.
must have drank some Kool-Aid or literally lost my mind. I'm sorry, I forgot what the question
No,
was.
just how do you deal with the fact that you don't match up anymore with certain people?
That was a very cathartic moment that happened very recently, and that is been life-changing for me. But the more I'm leaning into the newer version of me, the less I care.
Right.
But I also don't know if it's because of age, right? As I'm 42 now versus 39 when I started my channel. And I was a lot more like, let's play it safe. Like, let's not, say the things. But now I'm just like, here are the things. Let me say them with no makeup on while I'm crying too.
Right. Right.
So I'm just trying to, like yesterday I was filming my house and I was like, I used to not let people come to my house if my house wasn't clean, and now I'm filming it and putting it on the internet a complete mess.
Right.
Like my life, I'm just like opening up so much in so many ways that like I'm just playing in the mud a little bit. And I think you remember when you were young, just playing outside and being free to just like play and not worry about what anybody was thinking or any of those constructs or fake beliefs or limitations that we put on ourselves. And it's fun to be a kid again.
I agree, and I think it's a little of a push me, pull me, because we are such social we're social machines.
Yes.
We need community and connection, and that's another reason why I wanted to do the podcast, because I feel like, especially coming from the real estate industry, and not to put real estate down, because I love real estate. It's been like one of my greatest gifts.
Same.
However, there is this perception.
A culture.
Right, there's a culture, and when you're bumping up against the culture, it can feel really lonely.
Yes.
But at the same time, I know I'm on the right path for me. So I wanted to do this because I want to surround myself with more people who, it's like me, this is my version of building the table you want to sit at.
I love this.
Right, and so this is why I'm here. This is why you're here.
Which is why I'm so honored you invited me to your table.
Of course,
Thank you.
and I'm so happy that you're here, and I really appreciate you coming. Is there anything coming up for you that you'd like to share with us, or just want to share where people can find you and learn more about you?
Sure, I am in the process of my memoir that's coming out
Yay!
in a bit, so I'm building that. But if you need to find me, you can find my YouTube and Instagram. They're both my name, Lisa Petrik, Petrik. And there's a link on there to book a connection call and see if we could work together and just kind of start coaching together. And yeah, there's also free content on my YouTube about what is, consciousness, what is meditation. I kind of weave it in with fashion to kind of make it okay to be a fashionista and heal your ish.
Yeah, you can be
You
all
can
the
be
things.
all the
you can
things.
be a super, wellness guru person and still like, super beautiful clothes,
Exactly.
and beautiful surroundings, and all the
A
things.
foodie and all the stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Oh, it stopped again. That's
Okay.
weird.
All right.
Okay, so let's see if we can get it to start again, just to do the goodbye. and
Do you
then
want a goodbye? That was perfect.
Yeah, hang on one second.
I'm not
Let's
going
see if
anywhere.
we can. I don't know why it keeps doing that.
I was gonna say, I think maybe turning this box off again.
Yeah, that's what we did last time. It was smart. I think it's a power issue, to be honest with you. But you're probably right. It's such an old building that if there's any surge at all, it just kicks it.
Right. I mean, because I can see 9 things plugged in right now, and
well, and
for
that's
this
why
tiny
I
little room.
Right. It's actually this. I think that's the weakness.
Okay.
Because this is the only way I could find a way to connect it all.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah, so it's asking, what do we want to use? Let's see if it's going to work.
I'm proud of you, Christine.
I'm proud of you too.
Thanks.
Hello? Yes, it's working.
Okay,
Okay,
amazing.
hold on one step.